When you awaken, there is a narrow moment before the mind begins to build its familiar walls. In that space, fear has not yet found a shape. Doubt has not yet learned what story to tell. The world has not spoken, and because it has not spoken, it has no authority. Most people rush past this moment without noticing it. They allow the mind to wander, to reach for old anxieties, unfinished worries, imagined threats. By the time they stand, fear has already taken its seat, and the day is no longer theirs. I learned that fear is not born from danger itself. It is born from delay. It grows when the mind is left alone to imagine without direction. If you wait, fear will arrive. If you hesitate, it will organize itself. If you surrender the first moments of awareness, fear will decide how you move, how you speak, and how you act. To become unbreakable, you must intercept the mind before this happens. The first thought matters because it becomes the frame through which everything else is seen. If the first thought is uncertain, every action that follows will carry that uncertainty. If it is calm and decisive, the entire day moves under control. This is not about optimism or confidence. Those are emotions, and emotions are unreliable. This is about command. The mind must be told what to do before it starts telling you why you should not do it. Fear always disguises itself as intelligence. It claims to be protecting you. It speaks of caution, timing, and preparation. But listen carefully and you will hear the truth beneath its voice. Fear does not want you safe, it wants you still. Stillness feels safe because nothing changes, nothing risks exposure, nothing can fail. This is why fear prefers the early hours. It knows the mind is open, impressionable, and quiet. To claim the mind before fear forms, you must act before thought becomes debate. Action does not mean chaos or rushing. It means intentional movement. You rise, you breathe with awareness, you focus the eyes, you decide the first task and begin it without negotiation. In doing this, you deny fear the time it needs to grow. You do not destroy fear by fighting it, you starve it by refusing to listen. At first, this feels uncomfortable. The mind resists because it is used to leading. It will protest with fatigue, distraction, and doubt. This resistance is a sign that you are doing the right thing. Each time you move despite it, the balance of power shifts. The mind learns that its role is to serve, not to command. Fear becomes quieter because it is no longer effective. Those who live reactively believe fear is something that attacks them. In truth, fear is something they invite. They open the door through hesitation. They feed it through imagination. They strengthen it through repetition. The unbreakable do the opposite. They meet the day with intent before fear has a voice. Over time, fear loses its sharpness. It still appears, but it no longer controls. This practice changes how pressure feels. When fear has been denied early, it has no foundation later. Challenges are seen clearly without distortion. You assess situations as they are, not as your anxiety paints them. Decisions become cleaner, movement becomes precise. The body follows because the mind is settled. Understand this: fear cannot coexist with clarity. It thrives in confusion, in delay, in internal argument. When the mind is clear and directed, fear has no place to attach itself. This is why the first moments of the day are so important. They determine whether clarity or confusion will lead. Most people wait to see how they feel before they act. This is backward. Feeling follows action, not the other way around. If you wait to feel ready, fear will ensure that readiness never arrives. If you act first, readiness emerges naturally. Courage is not a feeling you wait for, it is a result of movement. Claiming the mind early also builds trust within yourself. You begin to know that when resistance appears, you will move anyway. That knowledge creates calm. Calm reduces fear. Over time, this becomes a cycle of strength. You do not need to tell yourself you are strong, your actions prove it daily. The world is designed to provoke fear. Noise, urgency, conflict, and comparison surround you. If you allow them to reach you first, you will spend the day defending your position. If you reach yourself first, the world must adjust to you. This is not arrogance, it is discipline. This discipline is quiet. No one sees it, no one rewards it. But it is felt in moments of pressure when others lose control and you do not. It is felt when decisions must be made quickly and you are steady. It is felt when fear appears and you recognize it without obeying it. Mental unbreakability is not achieved in dramatic moments. It is built in these small, deliberate acts of control. Each morning is a test, each awakening is an opportunity. Either you claim the mind or fear will claim it for you. Do not think this practice is small. It governs everything that follows. If fear leads the first thought, it will influence every decision. If clarity leads, fear becomes irrelevant. The difference between those who are broken by life and those who remain steady is not circumstance. It is who takes command first. Take the mind before fear has time to speak, and you will walk through the day unshaken. Most people believe the mind exists to react. They wait for events, words, pressure, or emotion to tell them how to feel and what to do. They move only after being pushed. This is why they're always late to their own lives. A reactive mind is never in control, it is always chasing, defending, explaining. Strength cannot live there. If you want to become mentally unbreakable, the mind must be trained to lead, not to respond. A leading mind does not wait for permission from emotion. It does not ask comfort whether action is allowed. It decides first and adjusts later. Reaction feels natural because it requires no effort. Leadership feels difficult at first because it demands responsibility. But understand this clearly: the mind that leads is calm, and the mind that reacts is always tense. Tension is the tax paid by those who surrender control. Reaction is rooted in habit. When something unexpected happens, the untrained mind reaches for familiar patterns: anger, avoidance, panic, or self-doubt. These patterns feel automatic because they have been practiced unconsciously for years. The mind reacts because it has never been instructed to do otherwise. Training the mind to lead begins by interrupting this pattern. You pause, you observe, you choose. That pause is the space where control is born. A disciplined mind does not eliminate emotion, it places it in its proper position. Emotion becomes information, not instruction. When pressure rises, the mind does not follow the surge of feeling. It evaluates. It asks what action serves the objective. This ability is not natural. It is trained through repetition. Each time you act deliberately instead of emotionally, the mind strengthens its authority. Most people confuse speed with leadership. They react quickly and believe they are decisive. In truth, they are impulsive. A leading mind is not rushed, it is precise, it understands timing, it knows that the fastest response is often the wrong one. By remaining steady, it sees what others miss. By waiting when others rush, it conserves energy and clarity. The mind learns leadership the same way the body learns technique, through consistent practice under resistance. Every time you feel the urge to react and choose restraint instead, you are training control. Every time you feel insulted and remain silent, you are sharpening discipline. Every time you feel fear and act anyway, you are teaching the mind that emotion does not decide outcomes. Reaction makes life exhausting. You are always responding to problems instead of shaping situations. You wake already behind, already defensive. A leading mind changes this completely. It anticipates, it prepares, it sets direction early and adjusts calmly. This is why those with mental control appear composed even in chaos. They are not surprised by pressure because they have already chosen how to move before pressure arrives. Training the mind to lead also removes internal conflict. Reaction creates argument. One part of the mind wants to act, another wants to retreat. Energy is wasted in debate. Leadership ends the debate. A decision is made and action follows. The body feels relief in this clarity. Movement becomes smooth, effort becomes focused. Many wait for confidence before acting. This is another form of reaction. Confidence is not a prerequisite, it is a result. Action creates confidence. Leadership creates certainty. When the mind leads consistently, doubt weakens because it has lost influence. You stop asking if you can handle situations because you already know how you respond, you act. Pressure exposes the difference between reaction and leadership. Under stress, the reactive mind narrows, it fixates, it panics. The leading mind expands awareness, it sees options, it adapts. This is not intelligence, it is discipline. Intelligence without control collapses under stress. Discipline preserves clarity. This training extends into every part of life: how you listen, how you speak, how you move through conflict. A reactive person interrupts, defends, and explains. A leading mind listens, waits, and responds with intent. This restraint is not weakness, it is dominance over self. Those who cannot control themselves are easy to manipulate. Those who can remain steady cannot be moved against their will. To train leadership, you must accept discomfort. Reaction feels easier in the moment because it releases tension quickly. Leadership holds tension and directs it. This is why it feels difficult at first, but over time the mind adapts. What once felt heavy becomes natural, calm becomes the default, control becomes instinct. You will notice a shift when the mind begins to lead. Situations that once triggered you no longer do, delays no longer frustrate you, insults lose their power, fear still appears but it does not command. You move with intent instead of impulse. This is mental freedom. Understand this deeply: the world will always try to provoke reaction. Noise, urgency, conflict, and comparison are everywhere. If you react, you are playing by rules you did not choose. If you lead, you define the pace. This is why mental control is real power. It cannot be taken from you, it can only be surrendered. Do not expect immediate perfection. The mind has years of habit behind it. There will be moments of reaction. The discipline is in noticing and correcting, not in never slipping. Each correction strengthens awareness. each return to leadership builds authority. Over time, the mind becomes quiet not because it is suppressed but because it is directed. Silence replaces chaos. Focus replaces noise. Action replaces hesitation. This is what it means to be mentally unbreakable, not that nothing affects you but that nothing controls you without your consent. Train the mind to lead, and the rest of life will follow your direction. There comes a moment in every life when a person must decide whether they will rule themselves or be ruled by circumstance. Most never realize this moment has arrived because it does not announce itself with noise or drama. It appears quietly, disguised as inconvenience, failure, insult, or loss. In that moment, the weak look outward. They search for reasons, explanations, and someone to blame. The strong look inward. They claim responsibility, and in doing so, they claim power. To accept total responsibility is not to say that the world is fair or kind. It is to say that regardless of how the world behaves, your response belongs to you alone. This understanding changes everything. The moment you stop blaming circumstances, people, or fate, you remove their authority over your mind. You stop waiting for permission to move forward. You stop demanding justice before taking action. You begin to shape your life with intent rather than reaction. Most people fear responsibility because they believe it will crush them. They imagine it as weight added to an already heavy life. In truth, responsibility removes weight. It eliminates confusion. It simplifies decisions. When you accept that every outcome is yours to answer for, there is no room left for complaint. Energy that was wasted on frustration and resentment becomes available for action. The mind grows quieter because it no longer argues with reality. Blame is seductive because it offers comfort without effort. It allows the ego to remain intact while progress dies quietly. It says, "You would have succeeded if things were different." Responsibility says something harsher but far more useful. "What will you do now?" One keeps you still, the other forces movement. Only one builds strength. When you accept responsibility, fear loses much of its power. Fear thrives when the mind believes it is trapped by forces it cannot control. Responsibility removes that illusion. You may not control events, but you always control your response. This truth is not emotional, it is structural. Once understood, panic fades. You no longer ask whether you will be hurt or lose. You ask how you will act when it happens. That shift turns fear into preparation. Many confuse responsibility with self-blame. This is another misunderstanding. Self-blame is emotional and paralyzing. Responsibility is calm and constructive. It does not dwell on what should have been, it focuses on what can be done next. It does not punish, it corrects. It does not weaken, it sharpens. The responsible mind does not insult itself for failure. It studies failure as a teacher. Those who avoid responsibility remain dependent. They need reassurance, validation, and favorable conditions to function. When these disappear, so does their strength. Those who accept responsibility become independent. They do not wait for understanding or approval. They move because movement is required. This independence is not loud or arrogant. It is quiet and steady. It cannot be taken away because it is internal. Pressure reveals who has embraced responsibility and who has not. When faced with hardship, the irresponsible mind looks for escape. It complains, delays, and justifies. The responsible mind assesses and adapts. It does not waste time asking why this happened. It asks how to respond effectively. While others are still explaining, it is already moving. Responsibility also brings humility. When you own your outcomes, you stop pretending to be flawless. You no longer defend mistakes or hide weaknesses. You correct them. This humility keeps the mind flexible. It allows learning to continue even after success. Pride freezes growth. Responsibility keeps it alive. This discipline must be practiced daily. Each time you catch yourself blaming, you are standing at a crossroads. One path leads back to weakness and repetition. The other leads forward through ownership. Choose ownership often enough and it becomes instinct. Eventually, the mind no longer searches outward for causes. It searches inward for solutions. This is when control becomes natural. Life will test this commitment relentlessly. You will be wronged. You will be misunderstood. You will lose despite effort. None of this changes the rule. Complaining will not restore what was lost. Blame will not protect you from future hardship. Only responsibility will prepare you for what comes next. Those who accept total responsibility are difficult to break. They do not collapse under failure because failure is already accounted for. They do not freeze under pressure because response has already been chosen. They do not drift through life hopping for favorable winds. They row regardless of the current. Understand this deeply. The moment you stop blaming is the moment your mind becomes free. Freedom is not the absence of difficulty. It is the presence of control. Accept responsibility fully without complaint or excuse, and you will discover a strength that does not depend on circumstance and cannot be taken from you. Emotion is not the enemy, but it is a poor leader. Most people allow it to sit at the center of every decision they make. They feel anger and they strike blindly. They feel fear and they retreat without thinking. They feel excitement and they rush only to regret their speed later. They believe this is being human. In truth, it is being controlled. Precision is impossible when emotion holds the reins. I learned early that emotion distorts reality. It narrows vision, speeds the breath, tightens the body, and clouds judgment. When emotion rises, perception shrinks. You see less, hear less, understand less. This is why people say things they cannot take back and make choices that undo years of effort in a single moment. Emotion convinces them they are acting decisively, when in reality they are reacting blindly. To detach emotion does not mean to destroy it or suppress it. Suppression only stores it for later, where it returns with greater force. Detachment means creating distance. You acknowledge what you feel without allowing it to dictate your action. You observe the emotion as you would observe weather passing through the sky. It may be intense, but it is temporary. The path does not change because the wind is strong. Most people fear detachment because they believe emotion gives them strength. They think anger fuels power, fear sharpens awareness, and passion guarantees victory. These beliefs are comforting but false. Anger wastes energy, fear fragments attention, passion blinds judgment. Precision comes from calm. Calm allows you to see the entire field, not just the threat in front of you. When pressure arrives, emotion always speaks first. It is loud and urgent. It demands immediate action. If you obey it, you may feel relief for a moment, but you lose control of the outcome. If you pause instead just long enough to breathe, to feel the ground beneath you, to steady the mind, you reclaim authority. In that pause, clarity appears. In clarity, the correct action reveals itself. Detachment is a skill, and like all skills, it is trained through repetition. Each time you feel provoked and choose restraint, you strengthen it. Each time you feel fear and act deliberately instead of impulsively, you sharpen it. Over time, this becomes instinct. Emotion still arises, but it no longer surprises you. It no longer overwhelms you. It becomes another signal, not a command. Those who cannot detach are easily manipulated. A single insult can derail them. A small loss can break their focus. An unexpected setback can throw them into chaos. Their emotions are visible, predictable, and exploitable. Those who master detachment are opaque. They do not reveal their inner state. They do not grant others the power to move them at will. This is mental sovereignty. Detachment also preserves energy. Emotional reaction is exhausting. It drains the body and scatters the mind. Calm action conserves strength. It allows endurance. This is why those who remain composed often outlast those who appear more aggressive or passionate. They are not burning fuel unnecessarily. They are applying force only where it matters. Clarity under pressure is not accidental. It is the result of training the mind to remain still when everything urges movement. Stillness does not mean inaction, it means action chosen with intent. The detached mind sees timing. It knows when to advance and when to wait. It does not confuse motion with progress. Many believe they will detach once circumstances improve. This is backward. Detachment must be practiced when circumstances are difficult. Calm built in ease collapses under stress. Calm built in adversity becomes unshakable. Every uncomfortable moment is an opportunity to train this skill. Every irritation is a test. Every fear is an invitation to practice control. When you detach from emotion, failure changes its meaning. It no longer feels like an attack on your identity. It becomes information. You examine it without defensiveness. You adjust without shame. This accelerates growth. Those who are emotionally attached to outcomes learn slowly because every mistake wounds them. Those who are detached learn quickly because nothing clouds their perception. Detachment also deepens focus. Emotion pulls attention inward toward feeling. Detachment redirects attention outward toward reality. You see what is actually happening, not what you fear or desire. This realism is powerful. It prevents overreaction and underreaction alike. You respond with exactly the force required, no more and no less. This discipline extends beyond moments of conflict. It shapes how you speak, how you listen, how you decide. You do not speak to relieve emotion, you speak to convey intent. You do not listen to react, you listen to understand. You do not decide to escape discomfort, you decide to move closer to your objective. This is precision in living. There will be moments when emotion surges strongly: anger, grief, fear, excitement. Detachment does not deny these moments, it simply refuses to be ruled by them. You allow the feeling to exist while you continue to act with clarity. Over time, this builds deep trust in yourself. You know that no matter what you feel, you will not lose control. Understand this: the world is full of people ruled by their emotions. This makes them loud, reactive, and predictable. Precision belongs to the quiet ones, the calm ones, the ones who feel deeply but act deliberately. This is why detachment is not weakness, it is the highest form of strength. When emotion no longer commands you, fear loses its leverage, anger loses its urgency, and pressure loses its chaos. You see clearly, act precisely, and remain steady no matter the circumstance. Detach from emotion, and clarity will guide every move.